Yeah, I mean, so first off, I'd like to kind of introduce you to the channel and everybody else that's watching. For those of you guys that are watching now and don't know who this is Ashley. Kind of a bit of a interesting way that we end up meeting, but if it goes that way, then I'm sure we'll end up going down that as we're talking through today. But
Sure.
yeah, man, I kind of want to get everyone else, and also I kind of want to get an idea of your story, kind of like where kind of an introduction to you, if you
All
know what I
right.
mean.
So shall I go for it? Okay.
Yeah,
So
man. Yeah, go ahead.
so I kind of wear a few hats. I'm a psychiatric nurse by training, and I work part-time in mental health services. And I guess the story is
Mm-hmm.
probably better to tell. So that's kind of the first thing I did, like when I got out of school and, what am I going to do with my life? I trained as a nurse, and you
Mm-hmm.
know what? It's not been the worst of
What age was
professions
this?
because
What age was this?
so I was like 19, 18, 19 when I started training
Okay.
as a nurse. Yeah, yeah, just the other day.
Yeah. Just a couple years younger than me. There you go. Yeah. Sorry,
um,
carry on.
so so I started doing the nurse training, and it's kind of been like a steady career. Like I've always had a job, so that's something to be grateful for,
Mm-hmm.
especially in these times. I
Yeah.
mean, there's so many like professions where you just are like shit out of luck. That's it. Um,
100%. Just absolutely disappearing as well.
yeah, yeah. So I did that, and then at the same time, I was like interested in dancing. Like when I was at school, I never did like PE or anything. I used to skive PE. I used to just go and
Yeah.
smoke cigarettes and stuff. Um, when we used to get made to play rugby, and basically I would stand
What?
rugby.
You'd
You know
be
what
made
rugby
to
is?
play it. Like, you're like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
in
know.
PE. Yeah, you go to PE, and in the summer it's like
Yeah,
run
yeah,
around the track or whatever. In the
yeah.
winter it was like play rugby in the freezing cold, and so I'd be stood there in my
See, because
shorts. Yeah,
basketball, basketball's my thing in it, so I don't really do the cold. I can't understand it. The shorts,
yeah,
all of it, man. But hey,
shorts in
there
the
you go.
cold, right? Yeah. And I'd
Absolute
stand at the
madness.
back of the
Sorry, carry
field,
on.
right, with the other poor
Mm,
people who
mm.
didn't want to play rugby, and I'd rub my knees in the dirt so that the teacher didn't come up to me and tell me to do something.
That's genius. That is genius. I like
Yeah,
that.
it
I
was
like
good.
it.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, I didn't do any physical stuff at school. I was like, completely out of touch with my body. Nothing
Mm,
physical interested me. And then a friend of mine took me to a dance class when I was doing my nurse training, and I only went because she wanted to go and she needed someone to go with.
mm, mm,
And she never went back, but I kind of got hooked.
mm.
So after my dance training, I went off and after my nurse training, I went off and did a dance training, and I went to live in Holland, and I lived there for
Okay.
lived there for about
And
seven
what
and a
age was
half
this?
years.
What age
So
was this
then
then?
I would have been like 23, 24.
Wow. Hey man, I'm 22 now, and I've probably been out of the UK probably a couple of times, and that's going back to Jamaica, man. That's impressive, especially back then as well. Wow. Carry on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just in your story.
So yeah, I left the country. I moved countries, which was kind of
Mm,
like, it's kind of like a big decision, but somehow at that
mm.
point it was like I just want to do this thing, and moving countries was, you know, just had to be done.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember I rocked up. I had to go to Holland for an audition, so I went there for a
Mm,
weekend, and it's a long story, but basically I had someone to stay with, and then I did the audition. I got accepted. I was like, whoa, I guess I'm going to Holland. And then I rocked up to Holland like for the start of the university year. I had nowhere to
mm.
live. I literally turned up
Oh,
with nowhere to live.
okay. Okay. So, well, I mean, life's all about experience, isn't it? So I do love the fact
Right.
you kind of did it, but now, yeah.
As I think about that now, I'm like, that's crazy.
Mm,
But yeah. And yeah, so I spent about 7.5 years in total in Holland, and was dancing and choreographing, making a lot of dance and stuff. Loved living in Holland, a really great country.
mm.
And then I kind of like lost my way a bit. I was like, this isn't quite for me. So to make it big in the dance world, you kind of have to have like a lot of persistence, but also a strong like self-belief. And you have
Yeah.
to have talent. You've got to have talent in what you're doing. And the reality is I just wasn't very good at it. It wasn't my thing really.
Mm,
And
That must
so
have been hard though, especially if like it was
yeah,
one of them kind of things that you really have a passion
yeah.
for. Yeah, man. I
That's
think.
kind of that's like a tough call to like kind of come to your senses and stop deluding yourself. Yeah. So there was a period of time when I was like, I don't know what I'm meant to be doing with life, and I guess like by that time I must have been like 30 something.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I like bought a house here in England. I was always worked really hard. So a lot of my friends that were in university were like kind of, you know, oh, we're off going skiing for the holidays. And I was like, that's nice.
Oh God.
I'm going back to
I know this
England to
feeling, man.
work. Yeah, right. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah. I don't think I've ever been on one of those like school trips or anything like that. I always wish for it. But you
yeah,
know, it's a blessing and a curse, that thing, and it you
yeah.
learn, you take different things from wherever you are. But yeah,
Yeah, and
carry
so
on. Sorry.
I had to like work hard. I had to pay my way and stuff. I like lived in a squat for a while because it's like I didn't have money for rent and stuff. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'd kind of saved some money up here in Bristol. I still had a strong connection to Bristol, and I bought a house and stuff. So yeah, that had happened already. And then I met my husband. He wasn't my husband then, of course, but I met my husband in Holland. He's a choreographer, so that was the
Oh,
connection.
cool.
And
Okay.
he lived at that time in New York. So
Oh.
yeah, so he was trained at quite a famous institution called Juilliard. So that's where he went, and he was living in New York.
Name rings the
And
bell. Just a slight
yeah,
one.
yeah. And I didn't know what I was doing with my life, and it was like a new relationship. And I was like, you know, am I allowed to swear on here? I was about to swear. Sorry.
Be as free as you want, man. Be as free as you want. It's all about it's just a conversation, isn't it? So just whatever feels natural to you, bro.
I was like, oh gosh, or in other words, fuck it. I'm gonna.
I mean, would you like to just get a couple of them out right now?
Right, yeah. Sorry, you can bleep that out. Yeah. I was like, you know, what do I have to lose? I'm just gonna like follow this guy and go to New York, and ended up living in New York. Which wasn't it wasn't my plan, you know, it wasn't like on the plan. It was just like I ended up there, and I kind of knew I wanted to be in a bigger city. Maybe I kind of was like craving a bit of city life or something. And then I ended up in one of the like, you know, kind of not the biggest cities. It's not the biggest city at all, particularly, but one of the most kind of well-known cities in the world. Yeah. And that's when I started getting more into yoga. I'd already been into yoga and stuff, but I started teaching it in New York. Yeah.
This is one of the things I really wanted to get into as well. You do some very interesting things. But yeah, please do carry on. I keep on interrupting your story, man.
Got my England. This is my England cup today. I don't know why I've got the England one out.
Smashed it. I think I should have got a cup of tea. I'll try and see if I can message my brother to get me one.
Yeah, right.
Man, I can't stop drinking it. And maybe I'm just pulling at strings here, but since I got my British pass, it's like tea tastes better.
Tastes better, right?
I don't know. I'm just hey. Please do carry on.
We can do a whole podcast on tea, I can tell you. Yeah, so anyway,
man, don't get me started.
So I ended up in New York and teaching yoga in New York, which is kind of really interesting because New Yorkers are kind of like pretty full on. They're like really goal oriented, and they're like, you know, kind of the best that they can possibly be. And yoga is kind of a little bit not quite like that. It's not, yoga's not particularly you know, about being the best you can be or kind of being better than everybody else. It's about kind of accepting yourself.
Is the general idea losing the ego and that kind of thing?
Little bit, yeah. So there's a lot of ego in New York. Yeah.
Right. So that must have been quite a sight to see, to like the types of people. I've been obsessed with America for the longest while, like in terms of obviously basketball, and then pretty much most of my TV or movies that I watch tend to be from America. So like I used to be obsessed with it, but like when you really kind of break down the psyche of the typical American, it's an interesting place to be. It's an interesting place to be.
Of course, the trouble is, I mean, typical Americans are generalization, of course, but in America, there's quite a split population. I mean, look at the recent elections. Like the election was kind of pretty much split down the middle, yeah. So the views of people are quite different, and the kind of bit in the middle has quite a different view than the bits on the outside. So
and there's loads of little like almost factions dotted in between all of this. It seems like everyone's got their opinion, and they're just either 100% in it or nothing really.
Yeah.
It's fair dues, fair enough. It seems like the kind of thing you have to do to survive over there, really. But there you go.
Yeah, it's not Europe. Anywho, so I was in New York for about 5 years or so, and you know, it sounds really glamorous. Like one of the studios I worked in was like based in Soho, and I'd be like in Soho and with my sunglasses on and my like coffee, walking down the street. You know, I was
Oh
like,
God, I can imagine it.
it's like this is the life, right? And then another studio I worked in was the Upper West Side, which is quite an affluent area, a reasonably affluent area, you know. So, you know, it was kind of, in some senses, it was kind of just craziness. But I was earning like peanuts. I was earning peanuts. So
well, that's the thing. It seems like that's the way over there, isn't it?
well, it's the way for some people, and then for some other people, it's quite a different story. So, you know. I'd have like clients rock up for private yoga sessions. Their driver would wait downstairs, or they'd be like, you know, kind of in the film industry or in the, you know, kind of. So, you know, people had a lot of money also there. So you were kind of a little bit rubbed up against that kind of, you know, I was kind of pretty poor. So, and one of the reasons we decided to move back here was partly visa issues and stuff. Partly we wanted to get married. And at that point, you couldn't get married over there as a same-sex couple. And partly, yeah. And partly for like just financial reasons, like I had a better earning potential over here. So we kind of came back to England, or Adam came here, and we set up home here, and we've been back here for about 10 or 12 years. So now I do a bit of nursing still. I do a bit of yoga still. And also I have retrained as a therapist. So I'm a trauma therapist as well. So I have a few different hats on. Yeah.